A perfect Saturday afternoon in sunny San Diego. The breeze smells like salt and freedom. And I'm sipping iced coffee with my boyfriend thinking life couldn't get any better. That was me 6 months ago with Jake. He was the guy every girl on campus wanted. Tall, with messy brown hair and a smirk that could melt you. We'd been together for 2 years and I thought we were solid, like picking out wedding venues in my head, solid. But life has a way of slapping you awake, doesn't it? My name's Haley, and this is the story of how my world imploded and how I turned the ashes into something nobody saw coming. Let's rewind to that Saturday. Jake and I were at our favorite spot, a little cafe near the beach called Bruin View. I was laughing at some dumb joke he made about seagulls stealing fries when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my best friend, Mia. She'd been my ride or die since high school, shared secrets, late-night Taco Bell runs, the works. Her text said, "Hales, we need to talk. It's urgent." My stomach did that little flip, you know? The one that says, "Trouble's brewing." I showed Jake the text, and he got this weird look, like he'd swallowed a lemon. "Probably just Mia being dramatic," he said, but his voice was off. I brushed it off, though. Jake was my rock. Mia was my soul sister. What could possibly go wrong? That night I met Mia at her apartment. She was pacing, her dark curls bouncing like she was ready to bolt. "Haley," she said, not meeting my eyes, "I messed up. Big time." My heart started pounding. She sat me down and blurted it out. "Jake and we hooked up. It was a mistake, I swear, but it happened." The room spun. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. My best friend and my boyfriend? It was like a bad rom-com, except I wasn't laughing. I pressed her for details and it got worse. It wasn't a one-time thing. They'd been sneaking around for 3 months. Late-night text, study sessions, stolen kisses in his car, all while I was planning our anniversary trip to Big Sur. I wanted to scream, cry, throw something. Instead, I just sat there numb as Mia sobbed and begged for forgiveness. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she kept saying. "But you don't accidentally sleep with your best friend's boyfriend for 3 months, do you?" I left her place in a daze, driving aimlessly until I ended up at the beach. The waves were crashing under the moonlight, and I finally let it out, screaming at the ocean like it could fix my heart. Jake had been texting me nonstop, saying, "Babe, let's talk," but I couldn't even look at his name on my screen. I blocked him. Blocked Mia, too. My 2 favorite people in the world. Gone in one night. The next few weeks were a blur. I crashed on my cousin's couch because I couldn't face my apartment, where every corner held memories of Jake. I barely ate, barely slept. My friends tried to cheer me up, dragging me to karaoke, sending me TikToks, but nothing worked.
I felt like I'd lost not just a boyfriend and a best friend, but a piece of myself. Who was I without them?
Then one day, I was scrolling through Instagram, big mistake, I know, and saw a story from a mutual friend. It was Jake and Mia at a party, laughing, his arm around her waist. They weren't just sneaking around anymore. They were together, publicly, like I'd never existed. That's when the hurt started turning into something else. Anger. Not just anger, rage, the kind that makes you want to do something reckless, something they'd never forget.
I started plotting. Not like keying his car or anything petty. I wanted something bigger, something that would hit them where it hurt. I didn't know what yet, but I knew I wasn't going to let them win.
I was done being the sad girl crying into her coffee.
A month after the breakup, I got an unexpected invite. Jake's dad, Richard, was throwing a barbecue at his house in La Jolla. Richard was, well, not your typical dad. He was 45, stupidly handsome, with salt and pepper hair, and a vibe like he'd walked out of a cologne ad. He owned a tech startup, drove a Tesla, and had this quiet charm that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. I'd met him a few times when Jake and I were together, and he'd always been sweet, asking about my graphic design classes, remembering little things like my favorite wine.
The invite came through a group text from Jake's sister, who I was still cool with. "Dad's having a barbecue, come hang," it said. I almost deleted it, but then I saw Jake's name in the group. He'd be there, and probably Mia too. My brain started spinning. This was my chance, not just to show up and prove I wasn't broken, but to flip the script on them. I spent hours getting ready. Little black dress, heels, hair in loose waves, the works. I wasn't just going to that barbecue, I was going to own it.
When I walked into Richard's backyard, heads turned. Jake's jaw literally dropped and Mia looked like she'd seen a ghost. But the real surprise? Richard. He greeted me with a warm hug, his hand lingering on my back just a second longer than it needed to.
Haley, he said, his voice low, you look incredible.
And that's when the idea hit me. Not just any idea, the craziest, most scandalous idea I'd ever had. If Jake thought he could humiliate me, I was about to show him I could play dirtier. I wasn't just going to get over him, I was going to get even.
That night, in Richard's backyard, I made a decision that would change everything. But was I ready for the consequences? And just how far was I willing to take this? Richard's backyard was like something out of a magazine. Twinkling string lights, a sleek pool reflecting the stars, and the smell of grilled steak wafting through the air. It was the kind of place that screamed money and confidence, just like Richard himself. I stood there in my little black dress, clutching a glass of rosé, feeling every eye in the place on me. Jake and Mia were across the lawn, whispering to each other, stealing glances my way. I could practically hear their panic. Good, let them squirm. I wasn't here to make a scene, at least not the screaming match kind. My plan was forming, and it was bolder than anything I'd ever done. Richard was the key. He wasn't just Jake's dad, he was the one person who could turn this betrayal into my victory. Flirting with him wasn't just revenge, it was a power move. But as I caught his eye across the crowd, I felt a flutter in my stomach that wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't just about Jake anymore. Richard was different. He made his way over, weaving through the guests with that easy confidence. "Haley, you're stealing the show," he said, his smile warm but with a spark that made my pulse race. Up close, he was even more striking, sharp jawline, a hint of stubble, and eyes that seemed to see right through me. I laughed, tossing my hair, and said, well, I had to bring my A game to keep up with this crowd. He chuckled, and we fell into conversation like it was the most natural thing in the world. We talked about my graphic design portfolio, his latest project at his tech startup, and how he'd always wanted to surf but never got the hang of it. It was easy, too easy, and for a moment, I forgot about Jake and Mia. Richard had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the world who mattered. But then I caught sight of Jake staring at us, his face a mix of confusion and anger, and I snapped back to my mission. Time to turn up the heat. I leaned in closer to Richard, letting my hand brush his arm as I laughed at one of his stories. "You know," I said, lowering my voice, "I always thought you were the cool one in the family." His eyebrow arched and he gave me a look that said he knew exactly what I was doing, and he wasn't backing away. "Careful, Haley," he said with a grin. "You're playing a dangerous game," but his tone wasn't warning me off. It was daring me to keep going. By the time the barbecue wound down, I'd spent most of the night by Richard's side. We'd laughed, swapped stories, and shared a few too many glasses of wine. Jake and Mia left early, barely saying goodbye to anyone, and I felt a rush of satisfaction. Phase 1 of my plan was working. But as Richard walked me to my car, he stopped me under the glow of a streetlight. "Haley," he said, his voice serious now, "I don't know what's going on with you and Jake, but I'm not just some pawn in a game. If you're doing this to get back at him, well, I'm not that guy." His words hit me like a bucket of cold water. I hadn't expected him to call me out so directly. I stammered, trying to play it off. "No, it's not like that. I like talking to you." It wasn't a total lie. There was something about Richard that felt real, not just a means to an end. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "All right, then let's do this again. Just you and me. Dinner? Friday night?" I froze. This was it. The line I hadn't planned on crossing. Flirting was one thing, but an actual date? With Jake's dad? My brain screamed to back out, but my heart, or maybe that reckless streak I'd been nursing, said otherwise. Friday sounds perfect, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. He smiled, and as I drove away, I realized I was in way over my head. The next few days were a whirlwind. I couldn't stop thinking about Richard, which was not part of the plan. This was supposed to be about revenge, about showing Jake and Mia they couldn't break me. But every time I pictured Richard's smile or heard his voice in my head, I felt a spark I hadn't felt in years. Was I actually falling for him? Or was this just my anger twisting into something else? Friday came faster than I expected. Richard picked me up in his Tesla, looking effortlessly sharp in a tailored blazer and jeans. He took me to a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city, the kind of place where the drinks cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Over scallops and candlelight, we talked about everything: my dreams of starting my own design studio, his divorce from Jake's mom years ago, the way he felt caught between his work and wanting a real connection. He was open, vulnerable even, and it threw me off. This wasn't the smooth-talking tech bro I'd expected. He was real, and it was messing with my head. Halfway through dinner, he reached across the table and took my hand. "Haley, I need to know something," he said, his eyes locked on mine. "Are you here because you want to be, or is this about my son?" My heart stopped. I'd been so careful, but Richard wasn't stupid. He saw through me. I swallowed hard, searching for the right words. At first, I admitted, it was about Jake. But now, I don't know. I think I'm here because of you. It was the truth, or at least as close to the truth as I could get. Richard nodded like he'd expected that answer. "Good," he said. "Because I like you, Haley, but I don't play games." He squeezed my hand, and for the first time since the breakup, I felt something other than pain or anger. I felt alive. By the time he dropped me off, I was a mess of emotions. Part of me wanted to call the whole thing off. Dating Jake's dad was insane, right? But another part of me couldn't stop smiling, couldn't stop replaying the way Richard looked at me. And then there was the part that still wanted Jake and Mia to hurt, to know I'd outplayed them. The next morning, my phone blew up. Jake's sister had posted a photo of me and Richard at the barbecue, and the group chat was losing it. "Haley, are you seriously with my dad?" one text read. Another friend chimed in, "Girl, this is next level." I hadn't planned on the news spreading so fast, but it was out there now. Jake and Mia would know soon, if they didn't already. I waited for the satisfaction to hit, but instead, I felt a pang of guilt. Was I using Richard? Or was this something real? As I stared at my phone, a new text popped up, from Richard. "Had a great time last night. Round 2 next weekend?" My heart did a flip. This was my chance to decide. Keep playing the revenge game, or see where this thing with Richard could go. One thing was clear. There was no turning back now. I stared at Richard's text for a solid 10 minutes, my thumb hovering over the reply button. "Had a great time last night. Round 2 next weekend?" It should have been an easy yes. He was charming, successful, and made me feel like I was more than just the girl Jake and Mia betrayed. But the reality of what I was doing, dating my ex's dad, was sinking in. This wasn't just a middle finger to Jake, it was a choice that could blow up my entire life. And yet, the thought of seeing Richard again sent a thrill through me I couldn't ignore. I typed back, "Count me in," and hit send before I could overthink it. Whatever this was, revenge, a rebound, or something real, I was too far in to back out now. But the fallout was already starting. By noon, my phone was a war zone. Jake's sister Lauren had spilled the tea in every group chat known to man. My friends were sending me fire emojis and Yas Queen memes, but others weren't so impressed. One girl from my design class texted, "Haley, this is messed up. His dad?" Another message, from a mutual friend of me and Mia, just said, "Wow, low blow." I tried to shrug it off, but the judgment stung. Then Jake called. I let it go to voicemail, but he left a message, his voice dripping with venom. "Really, Haley? My dad? You're pathetic." I laughed out loud, but it was a hollow kind of laugh. Pathetic? He was the one who cheated with my best friend. Still, hearing his voice cracked open the hurt I'd been burying. I didn't want to care what he thought, but a tiny part of me did. Mia texted too. I know I screwed up, but this? You're better than this, Haley. I almost threw my phone across the room. Better than this? She didn't get to lecture me on morals after sleeping with my boyfriend for months. I didn't reply, but her words stuck with me, gnawing at the edges of my confidence. Was I better than this? Or was this exactly who I needed to be right now? By the time Friday rolled around, I was a bundle of nerves. Richard had suggested a low-key date, a sunset hike, followed by dinner at a taco joint he loved. I wore leggings and a cute crop top, trying to keep it casual, but my mind was racing. Was I doing this for the right reasons? Was I falling for Richard? Or was I just addicted to the drama? He picked me up, looking unfairly good in a fitted t-shirt and hiking boots. The trail was gorgeous, winding through cliffs overlooking the Pacific, the sky turning pink and gold as we climbed. We talked about everything and nothing. His favorite dive bar in college, my obsession with true crime podcasts, the time he tried to teach Jake to surf and they both ended up with jellyfish stings. It was so easy to be with him, like slipping into your favorite hoodie. But every time he smiled at me, I felt that tug of guilt. This wasn't just about us. Jake and Mia were still in the background, and I couldn't shake the feeling I was playing with fire. At the taco spot, over fish tacos and margaritas, things got real. Richard leaned back in his chair, studying me. "So," he said, "knowing words out. Lauren told me Jake's pissed, and I'm guessing you're getting some heat too." I nodded, poking at my food. "Yeah, people think I'm some kind of villain now." He reached for my hand, his touch warm and steady. "You're not a villain. You're human. And for what it's worth, I don't care what anyone thinks. I like this. I like us." My heart did a somersault. Us. It sounded so good. But it scared me, too. "Richard, I need to be honest," I said, forcing myself to meet his eyes. "When this started, part of me wanted to hurt Jake, to show him I could move on bigger and better. But now, I don't know. I like you. A lot. And that freaks me out, because this is so complicated." He didn't pull away. Instead, he squeezed my hand. "I get it. And I'm not saying this is simple. Jake's my son, and I love him, even if he's an idiot sometimes. But I'm not here to fix your past or be your revenge. I'm here because I see you, Haley, the real you, and I want to know her better." I felt my throat tighten. Nobody had ever said anything like that to me before. Not Jake, not anyone. For the first time, I let myself imagine what this could be, if I let go of the revenge. But then my phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. "Jake and Mia are coming to Dad's place tomorrow. They want to talk. You in?" My stomach dropped. A confrontation? Now? I showed Richard the text and his jaw tightened. "This is my fault," he said. "I'll handle it." "No," I said, surprising myself. "I want to be there. I need to face them." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, but we do it together." The next day, I showed up at Richard's house, my nerves on fire. Jake and Mia were already there, sitting stiffly on the couch in the living room. Jake's face was a storm cloud, and Mia wouldn't look at me. Richard stood by my side, his presence grounding me. "Let's keep this civil," he said, his voice calm but firm. Jake didn't waste time. "This is disgusting, Dad. She's my ex. What are you doing?" Richard didn't flinch. "What I'm doing is my business, Jake. You made your choices. Haley's making hers." Jake turned to me, his eyes blazing. "You're doing this to spite me. You're using him." I wanted to snap back, to throw his betrayal in his face, but I took a deep breath. "Maybe at first," I admitted, "but this isn't about you anymore. I'm done letting you and Mia control how I feel." Mia finally looked up, her eyes red. "Haley, I'm sorry. I know I hurt you, but it's too much." "Too much?" Defiant, I shot back. "You slept with my boyfriend for months. You don't get to tell me what's too much." The room went quiet, the tension thick enough to choke on. Richard put a hand on my shoulder and it steadied me. "I think we're done here," he said. Jake stormed out, Mia trailing behind him, and I felt a weight lift, but also a new one settle in. This wasn't over. That night, alone in my apartment, I replayed the confrontation. I'd stood my ground, but at what cost? Jake and Mia were out of my life, but the drama was far from over. And Richard, he was becoming more than a fling. I was falling for him, and that terrified me. Could I trust my heart after everything? Or was this just another way to crash and burn? After the showdown at Richard's house, I thought I'd feel free. I'd faced Jake and Mia, said my piece, and walked away with my head high. But instead, I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, staring into a future I couldn't predict. Dating Richard had started as a way to reclaim my power, but now it was something else. Something that scared me as much as it thrilled me. Could I really build something real with him? Or was I just chasing a high to numb the pain of betrayal? The next few weeks were a test. Richard and I kept seeing each other, and every date felt like peeling back another layer of who we were. He took me to an art gallery opening in downtown San Diego, where we debated abstract paintings and snuck champagne from the VIP section. We spent a Sunday morning at a farmer's market, picking out avocados and laughing when he accidentally bought the world's spiciest salsa. He opened up about his past, how his divorce had left him guarded, how he'd thrown himself into work to avoid loneliness. I told him about my fears of failing as a designer, how Jake's betrayal made me question my worth. With him, I felt seen, not just as the girl who got cheated on, but as Haley, flawed, ambitious, and worth knowing. But the outside world wasn't so kind. The gossip didn't die down. It got worse. Lauren, Jake's sister, tried to stay neutral, but I could tell she was torn. She'd text me things like, "You and Dad seem happy, but Jake's a mess." I didn't want to hear it. Jake's mess wasn't my problem anymore. Still, the whispers followed me. Coworkers at my part-time coffee shop job gave me side-eye, and my Instagram DMs were a mix of "you're iconic" and "this is gross." I deleted the app to shut it out, but the noise found me anyway. One night, over pizza at Richard's place, I broke, hesitantly. "Do you ever wonder if this is a mistake?" I asked, staring at the pepperoni like it held answers, anxiously. "Everyone's judging us. Jake hates you. My friends think I've lost it. What if they're right?" Richard set down his slice and looked at me, his expression calm but intense. Calmly, "Haley, I don't care about everyone else. I care about you. If this feels wrong to you, we stop. But if it feels right, even a little, then screw the noise. We figure it out together." His words hit hard. Did it feel right? When I was with him, it did, more than anything had in a long time. But the baggage, Jake, Mia, the age gap, the drama, was heavy. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I leaned into him, resting my head on his shoulder, and we sat there, the TV humming in the background. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of peace. Then Jake showed up. Not literally, thank God, but in the form of a letter. I found it in my mailbox a few days later, his messy handwriting scrawled across the envelope. I almost tore it up, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside, he'd written pages, rambling, raw, and painfully honest. He apologized for cheating, for lying, for breaking my trust. He said seeing me with his dad made him realize how much he'd lost, not just me, but his own self-respect. Remorseful. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he wrote, earnest. "But I need you to know I'm trying to be better." I sat on my bed, the letter trembling in my hands. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for him, but another part was furious. He didn't get to unload his guilt on me and expect closure. I didn't owe him anything. But the letter did something else. It forced me to look at myself. Was I still holding on to anger? Was dating Richard my way of punishing Jake? Or was it about building something new? I needed answers, and I needed them from myself. I called Richard and asked to meet. We went to the beach at sunset, the same place I'd screamed my heart out months ago. The waves were calmer now, but my mind wasn't. I told him about Jake's letter, about the doubts eating at me. Vulnerable. "I like you so much," I said, voice cracking. But I need to know I'm doing this for me, not to prove something to Jake or Mia or anyone else. Richard listened, his hands in his pockets, the wind ruffling his hair. When I finished, he stepped closer, his eyes soft but steady. Supportive. Haley, I don't want you to feel trapped by any of this. If you need time, take it. Gentle. If you want to walk away, I'll respect that. But I'm not going anywhere. Earnest. I believe in us, even if you're not sure yet. I wanted to cry, to hug him, to run away, all at once. Instead, I took his hand and held it, feeling the warmth of his fingers against mine. Thoughtful. I don't want to walk away, I said. Firmly. But I need to figure out who I am without all this drama. Hesitant. Can we take it slow? He nodded, a small smile breaking through. Reassuring. As slow as you need. The next few months were about finding my footing. I threw myself into my graphic design work, landing a freelance gig that felt like a step toward my dream studio. I started therapy, unpacking the betrayal and my own choices. Richard and I kept seeing each other, but we dialed back the intensity. Casual dates, no pressure, just us learning each other. Jake and Mia faded into the background. I heard through the grapevine they'd broken up, but I didn't care enough to dig. They were my past. I was focused on my future. One day, 6 months after the barbecue where it all started, Richard and I were back at Bruin View, the cafe where my world had first cracked open. We were sharing fries, laughing about a seagull that had just swiped a tourist sandwich. Content. You know, I said, dipping a fry in ketchup. Thoughtful. I never thought I'd be here, happy, with you. He grinned, that same grin that had hooked me at the barbecue, confident. Told